We only received 4 free spools from Filamentree to show off, but by using our current favorite slicer settings, we stretched them to the absolute limit. Today, I'm going to show you how a hidden setting gave us seamless PETG color accents and how we cut our multicolor purge waste by a massive 75%. We are going to reveal what Levi wanted to print using these spools, and by the way, it's been another 6 months, which means it's time for another 3D printed update on his growth. And make sure you stick around until the end, because you'll find out the name these yellow pieces spell out, and how a simple slicer tweak turned it into an awesome puzzle for my Easter Sunday school class. I'm gerGO, and this is gerGO Print 3D, the YouTube channel all about our 3D printing and DIY adventures with my young nephew Levi. We've been at this for years now, so feel free to check out our rich library of videos. As always, they feature curated, translation-ready subtitles, detailed chapter markers, and audio tracks in many languages. Full disclosure up front, Filamentree sent these spools for free to test. No money changed hands, and everything you're about to see is 100% our own honest opinion. Anyway, I actually took these yellow pieces to this week's Bible class and had the kids try to spell out a name with them, promising to reveal the solution at the end of the lesson. Well, a couple of the tricky guys tried to cheat by scanning the QR code on the filament box, thinking maybe that would give them a clue. It didn't give them the solution to the puzzle, but it did pull up something super interesting for us 3D printing nerds. Incredibly detailed technical quality control information about the exact spool of PLA I used to print these pieces. We hadn't actually heard of Filamentree before this, even though they are literally right next door to us, based in Slovakia, a neighboring country to our home here in Hungary. When the package arrived, I was most excited to try the matte black PETG. This is actually our first time ever using a matte PETG. All our printers excel at printing standard PETG, and in many ways it's a better, more wear resistant, heat resistant, and flexible material than PLA. But its traditionally shiny, somewhat cheap plasticky surface finish and its tendency to string heavily, especially with certain high flow nozzles, often makes PETG a secondary option if aesthetics are your primary concern. A matte version sounded very interesting to me. We decided to print a car seat gap organizer. It's designed to catch all those things that inevitably slip between your seat and the central console, saving you from that annoying search for dropped keys, phones, and wallets under the seat. I found a model that seemed to fit perfectly in the older Renault iDrive. I made a few quick measurements and realized the hole for the seatbelt buckle needed to be slightly enlarged. The model also looked a little boring, but I knew adding just one layer of color would really improve the look without introducing a ton of color changing overhead. Because of this single color change, using a printer with an automatic material changer was the most convenient option, so we fired up our Bambu H2S, equipped with the AMS2. There are many ways to achieve this specific color change in Orca-like slicers like Bambu Studio. Some time ago, I started using the lesser-known height range modifier option available in the objects list. It allows us to create height ranges based on physical distance rather than layer numbers, which is brilliant because layer numbers can change if you adjust your layer height later or start using adaptive layer height. Beyond the usual object-specific process settings, you can simply select one of your loaded filaments to be used specifically within that height range, and the slicer automatically handles switching back to the part's default filament once the range is complete. Car accessories are one of those typical use cases where PLA's low glass transition temperature makes it a terrible choice. Internal temperatures in cars left out in the sun can easily reach levels where PLA objects will soften and deform. And that's exactly why PETG or even higher temp materials are highly recommended. This part was the absolute perfect use case for that matte black PETG. For that single colored layer, we used the luminous red PETG they sent us, which gives it a really nice accent. But just look at this silky, matte, perfect surface. There's a lot going on here to get a result this clean. First off, it doesn't look a bit like regular PETG. The flat walls are incredibly smooth. This is thanks to the high precision extruder and motion system of the H2S and the filament being perfectly dry right out of the box. But it's also a testament to the QR code the kids scanned at Sunday school. Every spool links directly to a real-time production report. It shows the average diameter, ovality, and standard deviation for this exact spool. Their certified laser gauges promise a 0.02 millimeter tolerance. I actually measured it myself with my digital calipers and it was dead on. That consistency is exactly why these flat walls came out so silky smooth. Interestingly, if a spool doesn't meet these strict standards, they sell it as second-class material at a discount, which is an awesome option for less demanding functional prints or prototyping. Of course, all this quality is totally useless if the print doesn't actually fit in my car. But it did fit so beautifully that I went ahead and printed a pair for my dad too, saving him from hunting for lost keys under his seats as well. Next, I really wanted to test their PLA on a multicolor print. So I asked Levi to select the model he'd like to have using the yellow and white colors we received. It wasn't the first time he picked a penguin, which honestly wasn't a surprise. Just take a look at his profile picture in the pinned comment below. And while you are down there, we would be grateful if you click the like and subscribe buttons there. This chubby penguin model he picked from MakerWord is just adorable. Adorable, but also kind of a filament waster. If you look at it in the slicer, almost every layer needs a color change, and sometimes two. On the single two-head printers we have, that comes out to almost 300 color changes. A tiny 25-gram model generates 210 grams of waste. That's an astonishing 8 times more waste than the useful result itself. But with two simple tricks, we managed to quarter this waste. First, we used the oldest trick in the multicolor printing book, printing two of them. By printing one for Levi and one for me, we doubled the useful material while keeping the total amount of purge waste exactly the same. And honestly, if we needed more of this model, the relatively large print surfaces of the H2S and K2 Plus would allow us to print as many as 20 of these penguins again if we needed that many penguins. Though, if you ask Levi, maybe we do. But the bigger save, the one that almost halved the number of color changes, was simply rotating the model onto its back. In this orientation, the first 180 layers are purely black, concentrating all the color changes into the top 30% of the print. It's highly situational, but it's always worth considering on conventional orientations, even if it involves using a bit of support material. Although the horizontal resolution of 3D prints is about half of the vertical resolution, we aren't losing that much detail on the front of the penguin here. It's not always ideal to introduce supports when the original orientation would barely need them, but in this case, the support scars on the back are much less noticeable. Besides, supports aren't the only potential problem on the back. You see, we only received white and yellow PLA from Filamentree. PETG doesn't fuse well with PLA, so their matte black PETG was not an option for the penguin's body. This gave us a direct opportunity to compare it with our usual filament brand. Now, admittedly, this was a very unfavorable comparison. The white and yellow Filamentree filaments were perfectly fresh, right out of their vacuum-sealed bags, thrown together with an old spool of black PLA that's been sitting out in the open for months. However, to be fair, it has been sitting in the 30% controlled humidity of our dedicated printer room. You can check out our previous video on how we achieve that low humidity in a city that averages 60%. We didn't have a chance to test these spools in the Creality CFS or the Anycubic Ace just yet, but the plastic spools feed quite smoothly in Bambu's AMS2. It wasn't perfectly drama-free though. I'm pretty sure it was due to the fact that this particular model needed only very tiny amounts of yellow from a spool that was 100% full to the brim. We did run into a retraction alarm and an epic tangle. Fortunately, the H2S caught the error and was able to resume without a hitch after our troubleshooting intervention. It is a huge advantage to have Levi present to handle the camera when something like this happens. I often forget or am unable to film problems when I need both of my hands to fix the issue.
The pigment is done and I'm gonna take it out. So just take it out. Okay.
Perfect.
So we printed this. This is the whole thing. This is just junk.
Again, printing on the highly tuned system of the H2S, the blobs and overhang marks of the standard quality black PLA stand in stark contrast to the perfectly smooth and precise organic surfaces we were able to achieve with the quality controlled Filamentree PLA. And we use the same material in the next project. Another 6 months have passed since we last documented Levi's growth. We've been scanning and printing a 1:4 scale statuette of him every half a year since we got our first 3D scanner back in 2024. You might have your childhood documented through photos or home videos, but Levi will have these physical 3D models. If you regularly follow our adventures, I'm sure you've noticed how he is changing from the little boy in our earlier videos into the young man he is today. Putting this latest print next to his very first one, the difference is truly stunning. It's a very special, deeply personal project, and it gave us a perfect opportunity to see how this premium white PLA handles fine details. He has grown so much that this is probably one of the last prints of him that will actually fit inside our FLSUN S1 Pro, which is the printer we've used for all his previous prints. Now here's the double-edged sword of this beautiful matte white PLA. Because the finish is so flat and non-reflective, it shows off organic sculpted details incredibly well. It almost looks like carved marble. But for that exact same reason, it also makes your layer lines much more prominent. You really have to dial in your layer height if you want a perfectly seamless look, because this filament hides absolutely nothing. Did you happen to notice the build plate we were using for this print? You'd probably think I skipped kindergarten the day they taught the lesson about round holes and square pegs. We've had bad adhesion problems with these tall, skinny statuettes before, and now that he's taller, the challenge is even greater. To make sure the tree supports stuck perfectly, I attempted to use a square Cairo grip build plate inside the round FLSUN S1 Pro. BQ makes these excellent plates for all kinds of printers, but apparently not in the round shape that Delta printers require. I had to place it diagonally so both the Purge line and the entire model would fit on the square plate. However, the printer failed to create a proper bed mesh scan on the partially covered build area. Using the saved mesh from the much thinner standard PEI plate resulted in exactly as bad of a first layer as you might expect, especially since Z offset correction on this machine is somewhat limited. We were only able to raise it by 0.1 millimeter. Miraculously, the print still survived and turned out really well, except for a slightly messy oval base due to the incorrect Z offset. But don't worry, we are actually collaborating with BQ right now to custom cut their Cairo grip plates into shapes and sizes they don't normally manufacture. This might involve our CNC trimmer or our lasers, so expect a video on that experiment soon, whether we succeed or completely ruin a good build plate. And what happens if Levi grows so much in the next 6 months that his model no longer fits inside the S1 Pro? There is a good chance for that. Well, thanks to our Sovol SV08 Max, we don't have to worry as long as he doesn't grow beyond 2 meters or 6 feet 8 inches. This custom riser on our enclosed Max restores its original 500 millimeter print height, so we are future-proofed. And speaking of the Max, that huge puzzle we left the kids with at the beginning of the video was printed right on our SV08 Max. With Easter approaching, the most important Christian holiday celebrating the resurrection of Jesus, I adapted this mind-bending puzzle model by Steve Good for 3D printing. I modified it to use the Hungarian spelling of the name Jesus, flipped the first S for a Z, and added the long bars on the top and bottom to make it a bit easier for the kids to see the letters forming in the negative space. The idea came to me pretty late before our Bible class, but the 0.6mm nozzle in our Sovol Max made it possible to print a set of these huge pieces in a flash. The smaller set was printed on the H2S and partially on the FLSUN S1 Pro. I will say the yellow needs a flow rate tweak on the Sovol and FLSUN. As you can see, the first layers were slightly under extruded, but the Bambu's automatic calibration nailed it first try. And it worked out incredibly well. Were the kids able to solve the puzzle? Yes, after showing them the first couple of letters, they caught on to the idea and had so much fun completing the rest of it. The matte traffic yellow Filamentree PLA lends a very pleasant premium touch that was absolutely ideal for a hands-on toy like this. To wrap things up, if you are here in Europe and want a local filament brand with proper quality control and excellent tolerances, definitely check them out. We are really happy with these samples and we'll keep using them. You can use our affiliate link and code for a 5% discount on their site. And you can also support our channel by liking, commenting and sharing our videos, or by joining the best of the best who support our work over on Ko-fi.com. A major thank you for all the kindness we are surrounded by. You can catch up with Levi's 3D printing project in this growing playlist. Yes, pun absolutely intended. And you can watch our build plate cutting experiment right here as soon as it becomes available. But even until then, go print 3D. Thank you for watching yet another gerGO Print 3D video all the way to its end. Stay colorful.